It began on a humid Monday morning in Chicago. Reporters packed the hall, expecting another cautious statement from the Texas delegation. But the moment Jasmine Crockett stepped to the podium, the air shifted. There was no script. No filter. No room for pretending this was normal. "Let's be clear," she began, locking eyes with every camera. "This isn't redistricting. This is erasure." She was responding directly to Donald Trump's latest Truth Social post, where he defended Texas's new voting map as completely legal and an effort to protect American elections. But Jasmine didn't flinch. She knew the game. She knew the numbers. And she was ready to say what others wouldn't. The people didn't vote for these lines. They were drawn behind closed doors, in silence, by men who fear the ballot more than they fear corruption. The press room tensed. Phones lit up. The clip would go viral before she even left the stage. Trump had rallied his base around the idea that the new map was a return to order. Jasmine tore that phrase apart. Order? If voter suppression is order, then chaos might just be freedom. And then she dropped the name. Donald Trump can call it legal all he wants. But when your name is tied to criminal indictments and fake elector schemes, forgive me if I don't take your definition of legal too seriously. The room didn't gasp. It went silent. And then the click of camera shutters exploded like thunder. She wasn't finished. Not even close. But in that opening volley, Jasmine Crockett hadn't just challenged Trump's post, she'd put his entire narrative on trial. And the country was watching. Within hours, Trump fired back. On a call-in with a conservative radio show, his voice bristled with irritation. This woman, Crockett, doesn't understand federalism, doesn't respect legal process, and frankly, doesn't know the law. He chuckled smugly. Maybe she should stick to yelling in hearings. Jasmine heard it live. She didn't flinch. That evening, standing beside Texas lawmakers who had fled the state to block a quorum, she leaned into the mic and smiled. If defending voters' rights is yelling, then let me raise my voice a little louder. She held up a copy of the Texas redistricting map. The colored lines split counties like shattered glass, fracturing neighborhoods, slicing through Black and Latino communities like scalpels. Jasmine pointed to one jagged corner of the map. This right here? This isn't representation. This is gerrymandering in broad daylight. And no post from Donald Trump will change the truth that these lines were designed, not to protect elections, but to protect power. A reporter shouted, "What about Trump's claim that this is legal under the Voting Rights Act?" Jasmine turned slowly toward the camera. Slavery was once legal. Segregation was once legal. Don't confuse legality with morality. Social media erupted. The line spread like fire. Legal scholars debated it. Right-wing pundits fumed. But something had shifted. Jasmine wasn't just reacting anymore. She was defining the fight. And behind the scenes, Trump's team scrambled. Because what began as a local protest had now become a national reckoning, with Jasmine Crockett at the center of the storm. By Tuesday morning, Jasmine's words were replaying on every major network. The clip of her comparing Trump's legal argument to the legality of slavery had cut deeper than expected. CNN aired it on loop. Fox blurred it with angry commentary. But it was too late. America had already heard it. Trump's campaign rushed to regain control. They sent out a press release. Representative Jasmine Crockett is a far-left radical who believes laws don't matter unless she writes them. Her rhetoric is dangerous. Her legal knowledge is laughable. Jasmine read it out loud at the next press conference. "I don't need to rewrite the law," she said, holding up a pocket constitution. "I just read it." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't blink. Instead, she unfolded the same map Trump had praised, and began reading voter turnout data by district. Here's a district that was 68% black. After redrawing, it's now split in half. Voter power diluted. Representation destroyed. Then she walked over to a whiteboard behind her. With bold strokes, she wrote, "They say it's legal. But is it democratic?" The room held its breath. One reporter asked, "Congresswoman, do you believe Trump is trying to overturn democracy?" Jasmine didn't hesitate. "I believe Donald Trump doesn't care what democracy looks like as long as he's in charge of the Mirror." That night, Mirror trended on Twitter. Meanwhile, Trump went silent, for the first time in 3 days. His silence wasn't peace. It was calculation. Jasmine had shifted the fight from maps to morality, and forced him onto a battlefield where charisma couldn't outshout clarity. The backlash hit hard. Not against Jasmine, but against those who underestimated her. Editorials that once dismissed her as too loud now called her the most feared voice in Washington. Her staff worked overtime sorting through interview requests from MSNBC, NPR, and even international outlets. She declined most. She wasn't chasing headlines. She was chasing accountability. But Trump wasn't done. At a rally in Arizona, standing before a sea of red hats, he took direct aim. "You know who's attacking your country? Not China. Not even the radical left, though they're pretty bad. It's people like Jasmine Crockett. Loudmouth lawyers who think they can redraw elections with hashtags and hurt feelings." The crowd roared. Jasmine heard the clip in her office, placed her phone down, and didn't blink. Instead, she walked to her bookshelf, pulled down the court ruling from Shelby County versus Holder, and reread every line. Then, at a surprise appearance on Capitol Hill's lawn, she held that ruling in one hand and the Texas map in the other. "I didn't redraw anything," she said, voice cutting through the breeze. "But someone did. And they didn't ask voters. They asked data analysts. They didn't ask communities. They asked party bosses. They didn't ask permission. They used power." Then she held up Trump's name, printed in bold on a GOP fundraising letter endorsing the maps. "And he, Donald Trump, wants you to believe this is about order. But let me be crystal clear, if your version of order requires silencing black, brown, and young voters, then that order is nothing but controlled chaos." The silence was total. That moment didn't trend. It detonated. Hashtag Jasmine versus the map exploded across social media. Trump had rallied his base. Jasmine had awakened something bigger. That night, Trump took to Truth Social in all caps. "Jasmine Crockett is a liar and a fraud. Her districts are a mess. She doesn't care about law, only power." It was classic Trump. But this time, Jasmine didn't respond with a press release. She responded with receipts. The next morning, live on CNN, Jasmine sat calmly across from the host. "Let's talk fraud," she began. "The only fraud I see is in maps built to bury voices before they're heard." She pulled out color-coded files, voter registration data, turnout drops after redistricting, and internal GOP memos leaked to the press. One of them read, "Consolidate District 14 to neutralize swing margins." Jasmine lifted the page. Neutralize. That's what they said. Not represent. Not serve. Neutralize. The host blinked. "Congresswoman, you're suggesting a targeted campaign." "I'm not suggesting," she cut in. "I'm proving." She didn't stop there. She leaned forward. "Donald Trump called me a liar. But the only thing he's ever built is a platform on fear. I stand on facts." The clip was everywhere within the hour. Even conservative outlets couldn't ignore the data laid bare. And while Trump doubled down, accusing Jasmine of being a media puppet, more Americans were listening to her than to him. Outside the studio, a protest formed, only it wasn't angry. It was electric. Young voters. Black and brown families. Law students holding up copies of the Constitution. Signs read, "We didn't vote for the map. But we vote for the truth." Trump had the volume. Jasmine had the verdict. And for the first time, it felt like the courtroom wasn't in Washington, it was on every screen in America. By midweek, pressure mounted on every side. The Justice Department issued a carefully worded statement about monitoring voting integrity nationwide, but refused to name Texas outright. Trump's allies cheered the silence. Jasmine called it what it was, cowardice in a suit. That evening, at a public forum in Dallas, Jasmine stepped into a packed gymnasium where folding chairs couldn't contain the crowd. No teleprompters. No rehearsals. Just her, a handheld mic, and the raw fire of truth. "I'm not here to whisper to power," she said, her voice echoing off cinder block walls. "I'm here to shout for the people who were cut out of these lines and treated like political threats instead of citizens." Applause swelled, but she wasn't finished. "I keep hearing Trump say, it's legal. Well, let's play that game. What else was once legal? Women not voting. Black people counted as 3/5. Internment camps. Jim Crow. So if legality is your gold standard, Mr. Trump, your bar is underground." She held up a blank voter registration form. "This is the only map I care about, the one where every American gets a voice. Not a line. Not a label. A voice." Meanwhile, Trump was scheduled to speak in Houston that same night. But reports from the venue showed empty seats. His message, built on grievance and dominance, was cracking under the weight of something more dangerous to his ego: irrelevance. A viral post captured the moment. Side-by-side photos. Jasmine's packed gym, fists in the air. Trump's arena, half full. The caption: "The voice versus the volume." Jasmine wasn't just countering Trump anymore. She was exposing the vacuum in his narrative, and filling it with something he couldn't control: democracy with teeth. Trump's inner circle panicked. They booked him for every friendly podcast, flooded social media with clips accusing Jasmine of inciting division, and launched a new slogan: "Keep the map, keep the peace." Jasmine responded with a single sentence at a university town hall: "If your peace demands silence, it was never peace, it was obedience." Students rose to their feet. That moment became the headline. But what followed mattered more. Jasmine began walking the audience through the legal history of gerrymandering, from Baker versus Carr to Rucho versus Common Cause. No theatrics. Just law. Raw and unflinching. "I'm a black woman from Texas. I've seen what silence buys. It buys power for the few, at the cost of truth for the many. That map is built on that silence. And that silence ends now." Meanwhile, Trump finally broke on air. On a conservative news show, he shouted, "She's a fraud. She doesn't speak for anyone. I built this party. I built this country." Clips of his rant contrasted with Jasmine's calm legal breakdown went viral. Again. But it was an old woman in Mississippi who made it personal. In a live stream comment, she wrote, "Trump says he built this country. But my grandson can't vote because of that map. Jasmine's trying to fix that. So, Mr. Trump, who's really building?" That comment alone was reshared 200,000 times. Because while Trump screamed legacy, Jasmine lived justice. And more Americans were choosing the latter, not with noise, but with clarity. Thursday morning hit like a lightning bolt. The Washington Post published leaked emails from a senior GOP strategist who'd helped craft the Texas map. The subject line: "Need to dilute swing districts. Trump wants numbers locked before primaries." The nation paused. For a moment, the narrative cracked wide open. Jasmine wasted no time. She held a press conference on the Capitol steps. No flags. No backdrops. Just the email projected on a screen behind her in blazing white letters. "I didn't leak this," she began. "But I've been warning about it for weeks. The truth always finds its way out." She let the silence hang. Then she stepped closer to the mic. "You can redraw lines. You can suppress voices. You can even weaponize the law. But you cannot hide the motive forever. A reporter shouted, "Do you blame Trump personally?" Jasmine looked dead into the camera. He signed the memos. He praised the maps. He called them legal. But legal doesn't mean just, and just doesn't mean this. She slammed a binder onto the podium. Inside, testimonies from voters who had been displaced, polling places removed, ballot access restricted. She read their names. Not as numbers. As people. Injustice isn't abstract, she said. It has names. Faces. And it votes, when you let it. That afternoon, Trump's team claimed the emails were out of context and misinterpreted. But fact-checkers tore the excuse apart within hours. Jasmine didn't gloat. She didn't need to. The evidence had spoken. And this time, it wasn't just Jasmine versus Trump. It was Jasmine versus a machine. And the machine had started leaking oil. Friday morning, Trump launched a desperate pivot. On stage at a rally in Georgia, he waved a pocket constitution and declared, "No one respects the law more than me." Jasmine Crockett? She's using the Constitution like a weapon, not a guide. Jasmine didn't need a rally. Instead, she went live on Instagram from her car, no makeup, seatbelt fastened, Constitution in hand. "Donald, thank you," she began. "You finally admitted what this is really about. Not maps. Not order. Power. You want to hold the Constitution but not be held by it." She flipped to the 15th Amendment, holding the page to the camera. "This says you can't deny or abridge the right to vote based on race. But you did. Not with laws. With borders, sliced up to weaken us. Erased us by design." That live stream hit 1 million views in under an hour. What made it explode wasn't anger. It was simplicity. Jasmine wasn't preaching, she was teaching. And suddenly, she wasn't just a politician. She was a civic surgeon, dissecting the tools of oppression live and unfiltered. By noon, a surprise came. A group of former federal judges issued a joint statement, calling the Texas redistricting deeply troubling and in urgent need of review. Trump's camp panicked again. They labeled the judges deep state stooges. But no one was listening to him now. Because Jasmine had made the courtroom mobile, car rides, classrooms, kitchen tables. And each time she spoke, more people saw what Trump tried to hide. That the law was only on his side when silence reigned. And Jasmine? She was the sound they couldn't unhear. By Sunday, the tide wasn't just turning, it had crashed ashore. Editorial boards demanded investigations. Civil rights organizations filed emergency lawsuits. A viral petition reached 5 million signatures: revote, redraw, reclaim. But Jasmine Crockett wasn't at a podium. She was in a church basement in Houston, seated across from a group of high school students with clipboards and eyes full of fire. "You showed up," one of them said. She smiled. "Because y'all matter. They're counting on you not seeing the map. Not reading the fine print. But you're not invisible. You're inevitable." One student raised her hand. "Congresswoman, what if they redraw it again?" Jasmine didn't flinch. "Then we redraw the narrative. We don't just fight. We vote, we organize, we testify. We outnumber them, we always have. They've just been drawing lines fast enough to keep us from realizing it." Outside the church, cameras waited. Reporters wanted another quote, another moment. But Jasmine let them wait. That night, she posted just one sentence on X. "He had the pen. We had the people." The post shattered records. Trump responded with silence. Not strategic. Not calculated. Defeated. Because this fight was never just about legal or illegal. It was about who got to draw the boundaries of democracy, and who got erased by them. Jasmine had made that visible. Loud. Unavoidable. And by the time she walked back onto the house floor Monday morning, briefcase in hand, one truth had already been written in stone. He said the map was legal. She proved it was stolen. And the country was watching. Line by line. What started as a map became a movement. Jasmine Crockett didn't just challenge the lines, they challenged the silence. Trump stood behind legality. Jasmine stood behind the people. And in a nation divided by borders drawn in back rooms, she lit up the front lines, with truth, with law, and with fearless clarity. This wasn't about one speech or one moment. It was about every erased voter, every hijacked district, every voice forced into a whisper. Jasmine didn't whisper. She roared. And in that roar, millions found their own voices. Because democracy doesn't die from shouting. It dies from silence. And Jasmine Crockett? She refused to stay silent.